This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 21, 3 Easy Pieces. Recorded May 8th, 2016. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Thank you for joining us. My name is Torgo, and let's find out who my co-hosts are this week.
Hello, I'm Jordan, aka Unique Perspective, and I was kind of hoping that Iron Man would give the Gettysburg Address at the end of the movie.
My name is Adam, or Geek Adam, and I am a history major who is not ruining the idea of the Civil War.
My name is Jason, aka JJ, and I'm just hoping that I can get Captain America on my Ultimate Frisbee team.
And I'm Randy, and here's your Civil War spoiler. The Union defeated the Confederacy April 9th, 1865.
Do I have to put up another spoiler warning with the dice game fonts again?
Cue the dice.
Anyway, unfortunately, we have to start off this episode on a somber note, and we have another death in the game show community that we have to report upon, and that is Reg Grundy. It may not be a name that you recognize right away, but he produced several different programs, the most iconic of which is probably Sale of the Century, what most people know him as. He is Australian, and he has far more credits over in Australia than he does here. Just a huge list of works that he had his fingers on.
Let me just say, the amount of work that he's done overseas in Australia is amazing, and he kind of, sort of, maybe a little has a reputation for perhaps taking formats from America and then doing what he will do in Australia without exactly getting those pesky things like contracts involved. He did he produces The Price is Right, a High Rollers, a Supermarket Sweep, but To Tell the Truth, a Celebrity Squares, a Blankety Blanks, which is just Match Game. He also did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which, Greed, which I was very surprised.
So obviously had a lot of influence in a lot of different shows that a lot of us like. So obviously, rest in peace, Reg Grundy. Our condolences to his loved ones and family. Moving on to lighter fare, we start off, as usual, with The Price is Right. Some quick notes to mention. First of all, on Thursday's episode of Price, May 5th, we had Pushover appear on the show. Normally, not an occurrence that is worth reporting, but it's worth noting that Pushover turns around on the turntable and it is orange and yellow and teal, which shows that the new paint scheme that we had talked about, which will air on the nighttime specials later this month, appears to be permanent for Pushover. Which raises the question, are they going to keep the other ones as well? Punch-a-Bunch being the one that really, strikes a chord in my mind, especially with all the Survivor, logofication that they have on that.
Was this taped after or before the primetime specials?
After.
After. All right. So, I mean, then it would make sense that they found that they liked it and would have carried it over. I am kind of wondering whether it's just going to be Pushover, because thinking about it in hindsight, Pushover compared to some of the others does actually not look that bad on the current turntable with its new look. Sure, it's different, but I think if anything, based on what we've seen, Pushover might be the best looking revision. So could be just that. I'm not sure.
What I'm curious about is whether, I'm sure on the primetime special, Drew will be like, oh, look at this new set, but then it's going to be kind of awkward if we see Pushover again before that. I mean, we've already seen it once. If he doesn't make comments these 2 times, then all of a sudden, hey, look, it's a brand new set. Like, oh, well, you're a little late on that, Drew, even though that the special was probably the first one taped with it.
Pushover, in my opinion, also looks the best. Bag doesn't look bad. It's just I don't think it's different enough where I think most people may not notice. I mean, we've had slight touch-ups in paint here and there. I mean, there's clearly more, a little more orange and definitely more blue than there was before. But I think Pushover's change is the most drastic paint change of the 3. I mean, yeah, Punches is different, but I think Push, considering it actually hasn't had much of a set change. I mean, yeah, the box changed colors and, the hands and whatnot. And, the April Fool's joke where they had the yellow box. I feel like that is different enough. And I feel like, yeah, it does somewhat blend in with the current color of the turntable. And I think more people will notice that. I mean, I like it.
I don't.
Well, of course you don't.
I don't like it blending. I don't like the blending in. I don't mind them changing the colors. I mind the blending in. It just looks like that the turntable now just sticks out like a sore thumb with the set on it. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, it's also possible that they could be changing the turntable wall with the asterisks on it between this season and season 45.
I don't know if the blending in is necessarily a bad thing because when I look at it, I don't see it as sticking out. I just see the two working well together and nothing that distracts me too much, which is, I'd say, what about I'd ask for in a pricing game visual setup, really.
Well, one of the things, I love the colors. I think it does look the best. And I understand the blending in comments and concerns. It's not that distracting to me. One of the things that has begun to distract me, though, is the lack of hands, which was an April Fool's joke, and now they're just not there anymore. And it's distracting me because now all of a sudden, I never noticed it, but those squares that are above the pushover, now they just look like Post-its, and they especially look like Post-its now that they're yellow and orange, traditional Post-it colors. Like now it just looks like a bunch of Post-its stuck to the board. So
to be fair, JJ, it's possible that they just forgot to put the hands back. I seem to recall during Decades Week when they renamed Now or Then to Now and Then, and then for the next regular playing during the season, they forgot to change the name back. So it's possible that they just forgot to put the hands back after the April Fool's Day show.
That's possible. Well, they probably kept them off to paint it, of course, not to get the hands wet or anything, so...
So do you want the hands back is what you're saying then?
I do want the hands back. I think it goes well with the theme. And
but see, they redid the entire top half of the game. It's not the same thing. They definitely added more squares there and stuff.
I don't think the hands are coming back. I think it's odd that they got rid of the hands for April Fool's Day and were like, oh, they're gone. And then now all of a sudden, wait, they're really gone. Like, I don't know if that was prepping. Like if they took them off and they're like, hey, it doesn't need it. Like, what's the point? And they just decided not to add them back on when they redid the set or what. But I'm pretty sure anyway that I missed the hands being gone during when I was looking the first time for the mistakes. I'm pretty sure I didn't see the hands gone.
I did as well because I didn't know they were there in the first place.
Yeah, I don't even think about it. I think I would have, if you're like, can you tell what's wrong with this picture? If I looked hard enough, I'm like, there's something missing there, but I doubt that I would have paid that much attention. I don't think the hands are that big of a deal, personally.
I mean, they're not. I think they go with the theme of it, and I think that's just one of the little things for me. And a lot of the games, a lot of the set pieces have just the little things that go along with it that you probably aren't going to notice in the first place that end up making a difference. Perhaps just how they like it to look aesthetically.
That's true. Do you think they're pushing a brand new aesthetic?
Waka. Nice pun.
I'm saying, I get it.
No. That, again, a pun I didn't even mean to make. But what I was saying is that, do you think that with the removing of the hands in pushover, and I seem to remember that a couple of the other logos seemed a bit more subtle as well, do you think that now that we're a considerable amount in this new Mike Richards era, that we're pushing towards more subtle logos, or are these just a couple, one or two or three off things?
I think we're overthinking it. I don't think there's a person on the staff who's making a direction. You know what, guys? We need to make the objects of the game more subtle for the home audience. I really don't think they're thinking about that much.
I agree 100% because I think it's just kind of like, okay, they change games during, the Bob Barker era. They changed, games and colors and whatnot. And, sometimes Bob would make a comment. It's not that it would have been a bad thing if Bob mentioned it. I just think Bob really didn't care. So,
Bob only cared if it was something that he could use to fill time with.
Yeah,
that was pretty much it. Like the double prices set changed, and Bob's like, "Oh look, double prices got a new set." It's double prices, Bob. I appreciate its importance, but who cares?
What was interesting when, now and then changed to now or then, that Bob made a big deal on now and then's last playing. Like, next time, it's going to be a new, different game. Like, we're changing the title. Like, he made a big deal out of it. Like, usually they don't mention this is the last time you're going to see it. Like, I mean, I guess when Clock Game came back with the revisited set, they showed the old one more time, but.
Well, that was more of a drastic set change. That wasn't subtle.
I think a lot of that is also, in the 2010s, nostalgia is big right now. So, yeah, they'd like to honor their tradition, which they've definitely been doing since Drew took over as host. They like honoring the past, which is, harkening back to older franchises and older ways of things is going to be part of a topic we're going to delve into a little bit deeper a little later in the show. So let's just briefly mention the Mother's Day special.
Hated it.
I didn't hate it, and here's the...
I guess I didn't hate it, but I mean, I don't. I would prefer the pairs with the mother and actual person there with the mother.
Here's the problem I have with Mother's Day, the specials as a whole. You could say both shows were couple shows, but that's not that kind of show. We're not debating that. The problem I have with the Mother's Day shows are the prizes that they offer. From a play-along at home factor, I'm a 28-year-old man. I don't know how much diapers cost. I don't know how much cribs go for, or baby monitors. And I feel like, yeah, it's great for the home, for the audience in the studio, especially since some of them walked away with some stuff. But for most people watching the show, how are we supposed to know how much that stuff costs? The prime example for that for me is Freeze Frame, where they had the nursery and the contestant bid $3,000 something. Like, that was one of the 8 choices, so she pulled the lever at $3,000 something, and I'm like, I don't know anything about nurseries. Sure, why not? And it ended up being $8,000 something.
Well,
granted, that's not more of a problem of the fact that they're offering a nursery. It's more of a problem that they're offering, 5 different prizes or 4 different prizes in a game that is meant to be played for 1 prize. So they're essentially asking the contestant, I hope you know all the prices of all these things, and I hope you can think of a price quick enough to play and win this game. And it's been something that they've done before, where they'll offer rooms in 1 prizes, and you'll see people drastically underbid those things because people aren't adding up stuff that quick. There's a reason Add 'em Up and Hit Me don't exist anymore. People aren't calculating that fast.
Yeah, but that's a problem that's more inherent with the show now, because they've been doing that for a couple seasons now. I'm just talking about having the items that are only good for pregnant mothers. They're the only people that would possibly need these things. And I have no problem with them offering it on the show. I just felt like it was overkill. Or only offer them in fee games instead of expecting people to price all this stuff, because it's not just a bassinet. They're all high-end designer items.
At the same time, it's not like it's just during this era. Like, during normal shows back in the Bob days, there were prizes that who knows what the heck those are worth. Like, they had kids furniture back then, kids beds and
the
whatnot.
$5,000 Monopoly set comes to mind.
Yeah, so I guess I don't see what the difference is between, I don't know how much the $5,000 Monopoly set would be versus, the baby stuff. No, I don't see what the difference is on the play-along factor. I don't know.
Not to continue to cut off Jordan, but just real quickly, I mean, I can see where Torgo's coming from, because while we would talk about the kooky prizes that the show would have, there would be perhaps 1 or 2 prizes on a show that was kooky that you might not know the price of, where Torgo's like, this entire show, item up for bid 1 to item up for bid 6 to pricing games that aren't played for cars and cash, all had prizes that are just for expectant mothers.
But isn't that the point of the show?
That's why I didn't have a real problem with it, because I thought it was just a fun challenge. That's the point of the show, so that's why I didn't have a problem with it. But I can see why Torgo did.
Yeah, but for home viewers, for people watching the show, the millions of people compared to the 300 expected mothers in the audience.
It's 1 day a year, though.
Oh, yeah, but a lot of the point is that we often analyze show by show. And
that's fine. We can do that, but I'm just saying.
No, we won't.
I just think it's fine to have perhaps 1 day where perhaps, okay, let's let the people in the audience play along too. It doesn't just always have to be about the home audience. I know that's why they're making the show and everything, but I think it's a fun challenge to try and play along and try to price these things that you're going to do. It would be no fun if it was every day, but it's only one day for a special reason, and it makes sense. So I think it's just fun to play along.
At the same time, they have designer shoes on pretty much every show. I mean, now I'm getting sort of a price because I watch it, but those vary wildly, 3,000 versus 1,000. I don't know what those are worth, but they have those every day.
I mean, I think the idea is balanced because, for example, if you look at the Earth Day special, all specials of the past, not necessarily this past one, but past Earth Day specials, they had nearly all their prizes fit this theme, but they were sort of in the same realm of items that most people could want or know someone who would want, but just slightly niche, as opposed to there's only a certain percentage of people who would want or need a bassinet or the nursery. And I don't mind the themes. I just think balance, even in the sort of crucible of a special.
But at the same time, those people are in the audience on that show, so the special niche you're talking about, the people that want them, are the ones playing it. We're not going for it at home. Yeah, they had I think that $100 gift card if you wanted to enter online, but otherwise the normal prizes, we're not in the audience. The audience is that niche. So
I just want to state, as something that Torgo has brought up in the past, that every game is now basically played for $5,000 worth of prizes minimum. So the question of these 3 prizes being lumped into one prize games, it probably has a very distinct correlation. And to put it with this theme, I'm sure they don't have enough of a $5,000 bassinet, so they need to lump stuff together.
Then offer something else.
But why?
Yeah,
it's a baby shower episode.
I mean, I think there's other things. Other baby things to offer than lumping an entire nursery together in a non-fee game. I want to just say that also, I kind of think that they didn't go far enough, actually, in the theme. Because let's take a look at the cars that they offered. They offered a Corolla, and they offered a Ford Focus in the games, and they offered a Tiguan in the showcases. Only one of those cars is not a sedan. And in previous baby shower specials, they've offered like a minivan or something more of a family car, perhaps an SUV. But no, we get 2 regular standard-sized sedans plus a Volkswagen.
To be fair, when you have a child, that doesn't mean you automatically have to ditch a coupe or a sedan. You automatically get plastered with SUV or minivan status. I mean, if you have a family of mother, father, and even 1 or 2 children, a sedan is more than enough space for the most part. So I understand that. I'm happy that they didn't offer all larger vehicles because I feel like the whole image of mother with a minivan is kind of going to the wayside, and
I mean, it's not about. I mean, for me, it's not about pitting the idea that a mother needs a minivan. It's just me pinning the idea that if you are going to have a family, we never really. I mean, I maybe I didn't listen enough because I don't know. We got all the stories about how or what baby number is this, but sometimes you're going to have a family, and a Ford Focus ain't going to fit the family. So sometimes it will. Sometimes you're going to have a family of 2 or 3 or 4, and it'll fit. But sometimes it won't. And I thought that perhaps more than just the one car in the showcase, they could have offered perhaps another car somewhere in the show instead of 2 sedans.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, maybe most families, even of that sizes, maybe they don't have that kind of car. I don't know. I am not.
I'm saying if you're a family of 6, you're not going to have a Corolla. Unless you're going to lay the child out among the 3 of you. All right, Billy. Now we've got the rope.
I thought they were going to put them in the car top carrier or something myself.
Would we assume that that most of the mothers that would attend this show are parts of families or 6 or more?
There's no way to know that.
Yeah,
there's no way to know that, but that's why I'm just saying it's fine if you offer it in the first place. They offered a trip to Florence, Italy. I don't know. What if the person that got the trip to Florence, Italy hates Florence, Italy?
Offering the trips internationally to someone who's going to have a baby in a couple months is another issue I have entirely, but
But I mean, and this is just something I'm saying in terms of the regular show or in terms of any show. I just thought that a larger car for any type that could fit any type of size family, including a large one, would have been nice. But I understand that it's not something that everybody would want. Nobody wants all the prizes. We've seen people who have had cars and showcases who didn't win a car in the regular show, and they passed the showcase with the car in it because clearly they don't want that car or something. So I can understand that. I'm just saying that perhaps on this show, for a car that could fit any type of family, that would have been nice.
Do you really think the lack of a big car affected the quality of a show one way or another?
I didn't say that. I was just saying that's just me saying what I think they could have done. It didn't affect the show at all.
JJ wants them to have like a tractor pull where they have just like that wheeled trailer that can hold like 45 people. And offer that.
They should just offer chugs in a pricing game.
No, we won't. We want chugs on the show still.
I guess my question to you all then, I don't know if we really addressed it too much, is do you like the fact that the baby shower is part of Mother's Day, or would you prefer it being the mom and the actual like 18-year-old or whoever?
Mother's Day is one of those things where you can slightly switch the ideas compared to, say, April Fool's or Earth Day. So I don't mind a little variety in that.
I don't want it to be permanent, but I like that they've mashed the specials together because now it makes it seem like they don't have as many specials. Even though they have a ton of specials this season, mashing two together seems like a really good idea.
I agree with that. I like the fact that they did it because that means we're not going to get another baby shower special, but I would prefer just no baby shower special and the mother and the kid. And then I guess the next question is, are they going to have a Father's Day special? Do we know or not? And then, I mean, that one you would pretty much assume it's going to be.
They are, but
I don't mind the pregnant women as contestants, the baby shower. I'm fine with that. I'm not sure how I feel about that being the Mother's Day special. It's not like they're mothers yet, if that's a weird thing to say. Like, yes, they're giving birth, but in my mind, being a mother is more than just letting something loose from your loins. It's actually taking care of that child and raising it to be, a functional member of society. And I feel like having an actual mother and daughter as a pair, as contestants on the show, symbolizes the poignancy of Mother's Day more than having pregnant women as the whole contestants. I'm not trying to be offensive or anything. That's just, I have no problem with the pregnant women like the baby shower show, but I feel like for a Mother's Day special, the actual image of a mother and daughter or mother and son next to each other working together, I feel like more strongly conveys the tonality that the show wants for that special. That's just me, though.
I guess all I'll say to that is I don't know if Price is Right being in the sort of entertainment field first and foremost is thinking about poignancy. They're just thinking about what will make a good entertaining special. I mean, I agree with you to some extent that the mother-child special works for its own way, but I'm just saying that I think Price doesn't necessarily think on that
Well, it's
level.
not only that. I mean, the mothers and their kids could only be a Mother's Day special. A baby shower can be whenever.
Which is why they've had it whenever before. So
I mean, you want an interesting one? Let's offer grandmothers and the mothers for a day instead of just teenagers or high adolescents. As
I
their
will
mothers.
absolutely concede that when they have mothers and children on the show, they should definitely vary up the ranges of ages a little bit. I will totally agree with that.
they do, but I mean, they don't. This isn't like a teen special though. But in the past, they do get people who are 18 and older with their parents to appear on the Mother's Day special that they had in the past. So, but I agree that maybe a person who is 60, 70 years old appearing with their 30 or 40-year-old child would be nice.
A person? I don't want to.
I mean a person. I mean like more than, I mean, I do mean like a, representative that's not just one person.
I don't want to drag this on further, but I do have a problem, excuse me, where the show, I think, makes so much of the person's age that they don't really call down a lot of people above 65, despite that being some of their target demographic.
To be fair, they can only call down people that show up that day.
That too, and to be fair, their target demographic can't play every game. So, unfortunately.
I'm just stating as a point. Now, if you have any comments on this, please do not fail to put comments on the YouTube comments.
I think the word you were looking for is do not hesitate.
That is the most effective segue to making YouTube comments we've ever.
By the way, they are doing a Father's Day special this season.
All right.
I should clarify, I've been waiting to do that myself for a long time.
All right.
So they are doing Father's Day.
It's on the calendar on the website that there will be a Father's Day special on the 17th of June.
So we're assuming that will be a father and then their grown child.
That's my assumption. Expectant fathers is coming.
Yeah, I don't know that they.
They're all seahorses.
Yeah, instead of being pregnant, they're just all going to have fanny packs on.
All right.
But, and also, just a reminder, if you're listening to this before the week ends, this upcoming week of shows on The Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal is their mashup week. Some Price is Right elements are going to appear on Let's Make a Deal and vice versa. We're going to go more into depth with that next week. Before we wrap up, there's a topic I wanted to talk about for a while, and it's been there, and we've never gotten around to it, but I finally want to bring it up because it is game show related, and that is the fact that Nickelodeon has taken it upon themselves to make a film adaptation of game show Legends of the Hidden Temple over 20 years after they finished production on that show. I'm very torn on the subject. I have a theory as to why they are doing it now, but what do you guys think of it? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that it'll be successful, or do you think that it's a weird time to do that?
I don't get it. Like I get it because they're trying to cash in on all the nostalgia. But what is their demographic? Because we decided it's airing on Nickelodeon, right? I believe, not like that the Splat, the one that shows the classic Nickelodeon. It's airing on regular Nickelodeon. So what is their demographic? Because Nickelodeon in general goes for your younger 7 to I don't know, whatever the top age is, but
it's 3 to 12.
Yeah, so they're not gonna care, I don't think, about it. Maybe they'll like it just as a movie itself without knowing the history, but I just don't think that the kids are gonna care as much as the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that grew up with the show would care as much.
I mean, we don't know what time this movie is going to air. I assume it's going to be 8, 9 o'clock. Nickelodeon around 8, 9 o'clock is starting Nick at Night, which still exists, and that demographic goes from 3 to 12 to about 30 to 80. So perhaps putting it on in a time where it's going to be a mix of young kids plus people who probably do remember watching the show when they were young is the reasoning why they did it. And I mean, listen, we've reached a point in just the history of entertainment where now we can go back and look fondly upon things and try to capture that success again, whether it be a good idea or a bad idea. But it's why we've had a Toy Story 3, why we're having a Finding Dory, why we've had a Monsters University, why we're getting another Ghostbusters. It's now a thing where people say, hey, I remember that, and they throw their money at it. So Nickelodeon's just trying to cash in on the fad while it's still hot, which it's been hot now for the last, 8 years.
And to latch onto that a little bit, the reason why I brought that up is I'm blaming the Marvel Cinematic Universe for this, specifically the Avengers, because the Avengers made a ridiculous amount of money when it came out in 2012, and every single Marvel Cinematic film has done well, and every single one of them has been based on a prior franchise. And obviously, since they're still going on, I mean, DC is followed, but I feel like all entertainment has taken note of how much money they're making and wants to, revive a lot of their old franchises. That's why we're getting a Ghostbusters movie this year, I think, because they're just looking back and seeing what worked in the past, and rather than come up with new ideas of hey, they're reviving all their old properties, why not have us do the same thing? Because it's working. So why not do the same thing? I don't know why they're making a movie. That's the thing I don't get.
I'm not going to blame the Avengers fully, if only because what makes Avengers and makes Marvel and all this stuff very remarkable is that while they are previous properties, they had never been translated to film or translated to film well. You can't recall the last Captain America movie before Captain America came out, the last Iron Man movie, seeing the Hulk on screen, on a movie screen. A lot of these properties didn't were never big like this now that they are. So I think it's maybe part Avengers, but I think Avengers kind of gets a pass because they were technically doing something rather new.
Blame isn't really the right word, but I would correlate it with things like Whose Line Is It Anyway being brought back to television after many years. Fuller House getting a run on Netflix after however many years. The Gilmore Girls special coming back to Netflix after many years. There's something in particular about classic, nostalgic, or possibly even cult television that people for whatever reason are just going on a nostalgia point. And I think it's that TV correlation that's bringing stuff like this movie to life.
But I feel like what the point Torgo is trying to make is that, I mean, besides the Avengers thing, is why is this a movie versus rebooting as like a series? Like Fuller House is coming back because Full House was a TV show, you know, and the Avengers, you know, all the movies and whatnot. But this was a TV show, and now they're rebooting it as a movie, which I don't understand.
And not only that, they've tried this before. They rebooted Guts with My Family's Got Guts to mixed results. They rebooted Figure It Out as a different version of Figure It Out. So they've obviously rebooted game shows in the past. I would say that of all the game shows Nickelodeon ever put out, Legends is probably the best one that's, you know, best suited for a film adaptation. I just don't get why they're making it a film. I guarantee you that no one wants to see this as a film when they could rather have it just revive the show. I say what you will about the merits of the show. I personally loved Legends as a kid. That was my jam. But does that say more about how they feel a game show would do in the Nickelodeon market, because their old revivals have not been doing so hot? Do you think that says more about what they're just trying something different because they tried bringing back some other shows as game shows and it didn't work? Do you think that says more about the genre and its viability in a 2016 children's market?
Do you think they're even aspiring for such things, or do you think they're just going off for a one-off moment of fun?
I don't know if fun's the right word, because like they get Kirk Fogg back. He's going to be in it.
So here's the one other thing. So I think they're doing a film because Legends of the Hidden Temple is a thing that can work in film form. The thing with the game show revivals is that, see, with this film, they're going to be able to market this to not just the kids who watch Nickelodeon, but to the adults, because they're probably going to air it late. Their game shows, for the most part in general, aired kind of early because they were specifically marketing those to kids, and clearly those didn't catch on with today's kids. Perhaps that's why they're doing this as a film and knowing that they can take the film and air it later so that they can get more than just the kids' eyeballs on it.
I just want to say, I mean, I guess some of the reason we're all a little outraged, I don't say outraged is the right word anymore.
I'm not outraged.
Surprised.
I am outraged at this.
Is that it's definitely something new. It's not something I've ever heard done before. Turning a linear show into something that's actually fictional. So I mean, we're all a little surprised, but I mean, we have no precedent.
I wouidn't call myself outraged. I think the proper term to describe how I feel is blindsided. No one saw this coming at all, and it like you said, it's a game. The point of the game was to teach kids, you know, history and like about myths and historic figures through, you know, physical challenges and crossing moats and putting monkeys together. And
also about fear through the temple garden.
My first ever nightmare was about a temple card.
But regardless, there was definitely some EI elements to Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't think that show ever got the EI sticker like Carmen Sandiego or something like that did, but they were definitely there. There was an educational amount. I think they're dropping that.
Well, it never did because it was cable. EI, I believe, directly relates to broadcast television.
For those that don't know the term, EI is an E/I, which stands for educational, and I want to say insightful. That they usually...
It was informative.
Informative, I
that
think.
They dumped on television shows before the rating system, I think, even began, where they designated that these shows, if you want your child to watch television and learn something from it, this sticker during the opening credits will show you this is appropriate if that's why you want to have your kid watch television.
You know, fun fact for anybody, all channels that are broadcast networks have to have, I think, like an hour of EI programming a week. So if you watch like a MeTV or Decades, they will have some random interesting program on in the wee morning hours of perhaps a Saturday morning to fulfill their EI requirement.
What does the Playboy channel air for EI?
Again, it's just broadcast.
I was going to say
cable does not have to do that. It's just broadcast television. But one other point I want to make about why
what about
you can blame
C-SPAN
this
then?
on. I don't know what C-SPAN does. That's a good question. I guess just watching the empty House floor is educational. Like, look, nothing's getting done. That's how Congress works, kids.
Back to making this a movie.
Right. I think what really is fueling the nostalgia boom is the fact that we're all older now. We are all in our 20s. We all have jobs. We all have an income. And that means we can spend it however we feel like we want to spend it. And so now that means they're trying to take and market to us because they know that we'll want to spend our money to see this thing that made us feel so good 20 years ago. That's why you're getting the new Finding Dory. That's why you're getting the toys, this Toy Story. That's why you're getting the Fuller House that everybody's going crazy over and the Gilmore Girls. Because these are all things that people remember very fondly watching, and they will gladly pay for it to be reminded of the good times when they didn't have to have a job and have an income.
I agree with that 100%, but I feel like if Legend of the Hidden Temple had been rebooted as, a remakes TV show, that would have been fine because that's what we're reminding of. The film, I don't think that the 20, 30-year-olds are all going, oh my gosh, it's a film. No. They're like, it's a film? Like,
I think this is a definite gamble. I think that they felt, though, after what happened with My Family's Got Guts and Figure It Out, that they figured having a reboot show air in a traditional Nickelodeon time slot of like after school era is just not going to work because we're the people that we want to draw in probably aren't home at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So let's try to do this movie where we can air it later and we know that they'll be home on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock or a Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
The follow-up point I wanted to make is, what do you think makes 20 years later the magic number for revitalizing a property? Because that seems to be the trend, is 20-year. Ghostbusters is 30, but still. It seems like, especially this decade, I mean, yeah, you could say it's because it's all 90s stuff, but even when in the late 2000s, they were revitalizing a lot of the 80s stuff, and it seems like 20 years later seems to be the time frame. I mean, yeah, 20-somethings do have income and job. Maybe not everybody listening to this podcast, but most 20-somethings have incomes, and they have it's disposable, and they have the fond memories. But you could argue that 30-somethings have even more of that. So why not wait 30 years?
Would you call Legends of the Hidden Temple and Fuller House, which are really the only two in that 20-year window, everything else is before or later, would you call those two making a trend?
Yes.
No. Well,
we're not making a trend, but I think it's part of a trend.
I'm at the only two. Did you forget Boy Meets World?
I thought Girls Meet World was more like 15 years later, but I could be wrong.
It's pretty solidly 20.
It's a pretty old, but I think that it is encapsulating the stuff because stuff gets rerun, and people who may have been born after something came out, like Ghostbusters, will again still find it fun because they remember watching the repeat air on television or something like that. So I think it's a wide range of years that it expands to. I think 20 probably works because, listen, I know that all of us in this call don't have, kids. When you're hitting your 30s, you're going to have kids. Your income might not be as disposable as you would like it to be. When you're 20, you're single, and perhaps all you got to pay for is your utilities and your food and whatever. You might have a little more income than a 30-something might have. So that's probably why 20 is perhaps the magic number per se, but I just think it all goes back to just, reminding people just to spend money.
That's true. And I invite you to join in this discussion in the comments section. I realize a lot of people listening to this are going to be at least 20-somethings. I don't think we're getting many teenagers listening to this show. But
hi, Tris.
But the bias is there. So with that, I mean, it's hard to not be biased about something like nostalgia, which is entirely based on bias. But, feel free to leave a comment as to why you think 20 years seems to be the magic moment for hearkening back to your childhoods. And even if you're a little old, if you're one of our older listeners, what do you remember listening to 20 years ago that we haven't talked about? Are there forgotten properties? And that just about wraps things up. Before we leave, I just want to make brief mention of some of the Daytime Emmy Award winners. The Price is Right won Outstanding Game Show this year at the Daytime Emmys. Yay, The Price is Right. Craig Ferguson won Outstanding Game Show Host, and Jeopardy wins Outstanding Game Show Directing.
Yay!
I'd like an answer. I'd like to ask a question because I'm not exactly awardy. What the hell do they use outstanding instead of best for game shows?
It sounds more grand. It's all about wording. Best just sounds
It's a lavish award, Adam. What do you want? Here's your trophy for the good enough TV show.
I'm about to say, best sounds like the plastic participation trophy they're handing out at the end of Little League.
I understand, but I'm like, we have best supporting actor, best lead actor, etc. Why
because
is
they don't
it
want to play? Because all of them are outstanding. This is just the most outstanding.
I also feel like when you have one person, it's easier to be objective as to what is the best with one person versus something like outstanding where it refers to an entire production where there's so many different hands involved and there's multiple episodes, so it's not like one product. Best Picture, a film is one product. The quality of a television show can easily vary from episode to episode. You cannot say that a TV show, every episode has the exact same level of quality throughout. So I think that's why they avoid saying best.
That's a very good point. That's the second, by the way, Outstanding Game Show Emmy win for Mike Richards and company since he took over The Price is Right. So I'm very pleased because I think that they've been doing an outstanding job consistently making great programming.
You don't think they've been doing the best job?
No, they've been consistently doing an outstanding job making consistently great programs season after season to just, compare the show to where it was when Mike took over in season 37, season 38 to where it is now. It's just a day-night difference.
And that's going to wrap things up for this episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in. On behalf of all my co-hosts, I am Torgo, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOScast.net.